Writers' conferences offer a lot of great opportunities like networking and sharing ideas and pitching books to agents. But they also happen to be pretty expensive and they can typically soak up an entire weekend plus the Thursday and Friday leading up to it. Since they cost so much time and money, you have to wonder whether or not they're actually worth it for you. Today I'm going to help you decide whether or not you should be going to a conference. What's up, guys? My name is Brandon McNulty. I'm a writer and welcome to my writing channel. There are a lot of different reasons to go to a writer's conference, but I think your decision for going to one should be a business decision. And this can come in several different ways. If you're going to a writer's conference to market one of your books, I think that's a great idea. If you're going to a conference because you have an unpublished manuscript and you want to find an agent or an editor, that's a great idea as well. If you're looking to make connections, make friends, find critique partners, that's also a great reason to go. And then also, if you just want to get some ideas out there and learn from other people, learn from professionals, maybe find some tips that can help you get published, I think that's a great reason as well. But I think if you're going to a writer's conference just to hang out with other writers and just sit around and bullshit about your favorite books and your favorite movies, I don't think that's really a great reason. I mean, you'd be better served just joining a Facebook group or starting up a Goodreads account or anything like that. If you're going to a writer's conference and you're spending time, you're spending money, make it count. Don't just go just to hang out, just to do something you could have done online. Now, once you do find a good reason for going to a conference, now it's time to actually figure out which conference you're going to go to. And there are a lot of ways to search for conferences. You can go on Google, you can just type in writers' conferences, or you can go to a website called newpages.com, and this has a listing of all the different conferences going on this year, and it arranges them by state. So if you're like me and you're from Pennsylvania, you could just click on the Pennsylvania section and see what kind of conferences are going on nearby or across the state. As you're looking through all these different available conferences, try to find one that's a good fit for you. A good fit will usually be one that is in your genre. So for instance, if you write science fiction and there's a science fiction conference nearby, that's probably a good one to go to. If you write science fiction and there's a fantasy or a horror conference nearby, that might be a good one to go to as well because there's some overlap there. Now, if you're writing science fiction and maybe there's like a romance conference going on, I don't know. That one, it might help you, it might not. It depends. And I think you have to use your judgment here. If you're going to a romance conference in that scenario and it's only like 10 or 20 minutes away and the registration fee isn't all that much, yeah, maybe you take a chance on it. Maybe you meet some new people, maybe you get out of your comfort zone, maybe you learn to write a romantic subplot or something like that. You can learn a lot from a conference that's outside your genre. That being said, I think the best thing to do is to go to a conference that best suits your genre. That way you'll be around people who work with the same kind of ideas and the same kind of tropes as you. You can probably start up a conversation a lot easier with them, and I think in general you'll get more out of them. Now, once you do figure out which conference you're going to go to, you need to prepare. And there are some writer-specific things that you need to do in addition to packing your bags. I think the number one thing that you need to do, if you have a published book, make sure you bring several copies of it to the conference. I would keep maybe one or two of them on you at all times. That way, just in case somebody comes up to you and you start talking and you say, oh, I have a book about blah, 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 and they're like, oh, I love blah, blah, blah. Then you can just say, hey, I have it on me. Would you like to buy a copy? And then maybe it's your lucky day, they buy that copy, you sign it for them, you've got yourself a new reader. Another important thing to do, and this is regardless of whether or not you have a published book, you want to bring your business cards. And business cards should have all the necessary information. They should have your name, your website, your email address, your social media links, and they should also have a picture of you because later on, after the conference is over and maybe like a week later, whoever you were talking to, they're flipping through all their business cards, they're trying to see, who was that one guy I was talking to? I can't remember his name. And they're like, oh man, was he Brandon McNulty or was he Bob Smith or who was he? And as they're flipping through your cards, if your picture's on there, they'll be like, oh, that's him. That's the guy I was talking to. But if your picture's not on it, they might forget and you might just end up getting your business card thrown in the garbage because of it. So think about that. Try to get your picture on there. And one final thing, and this is something that is non-physical, you need to bring your book pitch and you need to have it up here and you need to have it ready and be able to just, fire it off at a moment's notice. Your book pitch should be pretty simple. It should be 1 to 2 lines and it should be about a character in a situation and there should be a twist. I did a video a couple months ago on writing book pitches, so give that a look if you want a little more information on it. Now, once you get to the actual conference, you want to do this crazy thing called talking to strangers. Once you get there, you're going to attend panels, you're going to sit next to people, and in order to get the most value out of the conference, you're going to have to turn to them and you're going to have to say something like, "Hey, how's your con going?" And believe it or not, that phrase, "how's your con going," will take you places. It's something you can say to a total stranger, and it just opens the floor up for them to say, "Oh, I'm having a good time. I learned about this. I'm here hoping to pitch an agent," or whatever reason they're here. And then you start building off that. You have a conversation. Maybe you make a friend out of it. Maybe you don't. But at least if you're talking to people, maybe you learn something. You would be amazed the things you can learn from just talking to people at conferences. A couple years ago, I went to a conference in Philly, and I talked to this one guy after a panel, and he ended up telling me about this contest called Pitch Wars, which I later applied to and I later got into. And as a result, I got to work with a mentor for 3 months on improving my novel, and that was an amazing experience. The only reason I had it was because I just happened to be talking to this one random guy at a conference in Philly, and it's amazing the way things work like that. So talk to people, keep a notebook handy in case they mention something that's interesting, jot it down, and then when you get back home, do your research. Find out if it's something that could help you push your career along. Now, I know it's frustrating for us writers to talk to other people. We tend to be introverts. We like to hide behind our keyboards. But trust me, if you're going to get any value out of a conference, you've got to talk to people. Regardless of who you talk to at these conferences, be sure to ask them questions about themselves. Ask them what kind of books they write. What are they currently working on? What are their other interests? Anything like that. If you ask them about themselves, they will more than likely reciprocate it. They'll ask you, "Hey, what are you writing?" And then you can tell them. You don't want to be the person who just spouts on and on about what their book is about, and you don't really care about anybody else. You're just there to advertise your book or anything like that. That's not the way to do it. That's just going to make you look like an ass. Keep that in mind. Try to reach out to other people, and remember that it's better to ask than it is to brag. Now, if you do choose to approach an agent or an editor and you want to pitch your novel to them, one thing you want to do is you want to remember that these people are people. And that's something that's easy to forget. I think if you do see an agent at a conference, you might be tempted to just run up to them and be like, "Hey, here's my book pitch." But that's not the way to do it. What you want to do is you want to just go up to them and just treat them like another human being. Just say, "Hey, how's your con going?" Make a little conversation with them. Ask them, "Hey, what are you writing? What are you working on?" And they might just say, "Oh, well, I'm not a writer. I'm actually an agent." And that's your point where you say to them, "Oh, well, what kind of books do you represent?" And if they mention your genre, then you can say, "Oh, well, I have a book in that genre you might be interested in." And then you give your book pitch. But you don't want to just go up to them and spit out your book pitch. You want to be professional and you want to carry yourself in a dignified way. Question of the day: what is your main reason for going to writers' conferences? Let me know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to check out my other videos. Hit the like and subscribe buttons for me, and remember to keep on writing.